Welcome to episode 61 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. I'm Laura, also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at The Corner of Knit and Tea, which is where this episode's show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Stash Buckler Adventures in Yarn, where I sell my hand-spun yarn. And finally, we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. If you haven't come over, please do. Hi! How are you? I hope that you have had a wonderful week. It has been crazy busy here. I have been working very hard at work. We have a couple big things going on before the end of the year. So I was very busy all week, and we had a few groups of important guests. So it was kind of crazy. Yesterday was a delightful day. I started at Mrs. Wilson's Knitting Circle in the morning. That is a group of knitters that meets at the National World War I Museum, which is here in Kansas City. And we talk a little bit about the role of knitters in World War I, and then also about World War I in general. And I admit yesterday's session was a little bit morbid. We talked a little bit about how they dealt with the deceased soldiers at the end of the war, and some of the repatriation of the bodies, sending of the bodies to the home countries, and it was a bit of a long lecture and a little bit of a downer, but it was a good session. And after that, I went to lunch with some friends and we knit for a couple hours. And we took a beautiful walk outside. It was in the 50s yesterday, and it is cool and crisp and fall-like. The trees were beautiful this week. So we took kind of a walk afterwards, got in some of our steps. And then I went to another friend's house to hang out for a little while before finally I went to a party last evening. I have a friend whose husband's birthday is right around Halloween. So usually the weekend before or after Halloween, they have a Halloween-themed birthday party for him. And that was last night, so I went. And Wes actually was busy all day. He went disc golfing with his friends over in Manhattan, which is a few hours outside of Kansas City. So he was gone all day, and we both got home and collapsed into bed around 11. Today has been much slower paced. I slept in a little bit and kind of hung out this morning. We went out and had some lunch. I came home to podcast and talk to you. After this, I think we're going to try and enjoy the beautiful weather and go for a walk, because we know our days are limited before it gets dark too early and it gets cold. So that is our week and weekend. I did have one fun adventure this week. One of my coworkers called me up on Thursday and said, I need you to come with me on an adventure. And I wasn't really sure what she was talking about, but it turned out that we had a Chinese company coming in for some talks. And one of our people suggested that we do Chinese tea for them. So it turns out there is a Chinese tea shop in Kansas City, and it's called Shang Tea, and it's up in Crown Center for those of you who are locals. And so we went over there in the afternoon to buy a couple of teapots and some teacups, and I figured I'd have a browse and buy some teas, which I did. But the shopkeeper sat us down at a table and brought us a bunch of different brewed teas to taste test in little porcelain cups. And the first one that he brought us was an aged white tea. It had been aged 7 years. And he did a first pour for us, and then he actually did a second steep. So we got to see sort of the beginning kind of lighter version, and then we got kind of the stronger version, and both were excellent. But my favorite part is that they have a chai tea there. It is a matcha, which is a ground tea in powdery form. And he also grinds spices for their own chai. So he talked about ginger, cardamom, nutmeg, cinnamon, star anise. And he ground all the spices and combined it with the matcha. and he brewed actually 2 separate sets of chai. The first one he brewed with milk, and it is whole milk from Chateau, which is a local dairy and absolutely amazing milk. And the chai that he brewed with that milk was so unbelievably delicious. I cannot even tell you. But then he also brewed chai without the milk. And that was absolutely delicious as well. It was a little bit different from what I've had of chai before because it smelled very strongly of ginger, but it blended really, really nicely. It was very smooth. So I ended up buying some chai to try on my own. And then I bought some tangerine blossom tea. I bought a green tea with cinnamon. And then I bought a white jasmine tea. I really like jasmine, so I wanted to try that. So those are some teas that will be coming up, but that was just a really, it was a great break from work. We went over sort of a late lunch hour, so we were gone from about 12:30 to 1:45, and it was really, it broke up the day really nicely, and it was just an exciting adventure. And it looks to me like it's kind of a tea room, like you could go and order a pot of tea and sit and drink it and do whatever you wanted. So actually I suggested to some of my knitting friends we should go over and have tea and knit. So that is this week so far. I guess we will get into the podcast. I'm going to break that lovely discussion of tea because today I am drinking a Starbucks iced pumpkin spice latte, which is terrible because I know that is not at all what this podcast is about, but we stopped because my husband wanted something and I wanted something, and I thought, yeah, this is my first and possibly only of the season, but I decided I just wanted one. And it is super sweet and pumpkin-y and spicy, and I know some of you will be going, ew, I can't believe she's drinking that, and some of you will probably want to go out and get one for yourselves. So it is my pumpkin spice latte, which is not tea. So let's get into the projects. Last week I told you and showed you just a little bit of a sweater that I am knitting for Roxy this month. It is the Wowligan or Wee Owligan by Kate Davies. It is a cardigan version of her owlet or owl's sweater. And I got a lot done on this week. Last week I had part of the body done. And the deal is that it's knit from bottom up. So you start with the body and you knit up to where the sleeves join in. And then you knit the sleeves and join them in, and then you are ready to do the yoke. And that is exactly where I am at. So I finished the body and then I knit some sleeves, and that's actually a very good representation of the color. And I joined the sleeves, and now I am just ready to begin the yoke. So I am actually hoping that I will potentially finish this week. I have the yoke, and then I have the front button bands. That's the only thing that's undone. And then of course, lots and lots of ends to weave in. This yarn is Knit Picks Swish, which is 100% superwash merino. It comes in 50 gram balls. That's about 121 yards. And this colorway, which actually is not coming out too badly, is called Indigo Heather. It is a deep, deep, dark purpley blue. Indigo. So that is for Roxy. I haven't decided yet whether I am going to use those owlet buttons that I showed you last week, or whether I am going to find some simpler buttons. The owl buttons are kind of large, and so I haven't decided if I want to do that yet, or if I'm just going to go down to Joann's or Michael's and just see if I can find some kind of plain buttons to go with it. I also have to look through my button box because I may have something that will work. So that is Roxy's Owligan or Wee Owligan, Wowligan, and I made plenty of progress. Again, I am trying to finish this before Thanksgiving because I do not see my family at the holidays, at the Christmas holidays, so we do our gift exchange at Thanksgiving when we see each other, so I have one less month to do that, and we leave on the 22nd, so I am hoping to finish this one this week. I also have my adult sweater, which is the top-down V-neck shaped pullover. I think it's by Diane Susie. It is a pure and simple pattern, and it will be linked in the show notes. It is something that I have knit before. Anyway, when I spoke to you last week, I had not cast on yet. I was going to knit it in my hand spun, and I got quite a bit done. This is my Nanny Swaymo National Knit a Sweater Month. in November sweater, and it is a top-down raglan shaping where you separate for the sleeves and then work on the body. And I am several inches below where I broke off for the sleeves, and it is just coming out gorgeous, and that is very true to color. The handspun is my own. It is Hello Yarn in it was a merino black silk in the colorway Waterweed, and it is greens and blues and some indigo purples, and then also a little bit of yellow kind of ochre that mixes in. And so far it is knitting up super stripy, and I'm loving it. I have just a very little bit left of the first ball of handspun here, just a little bit. I am hoping maybe I will be able to finish this tonight. I have ordered some Carbon's double point needles so that I can knit the sleeves, and I was hoping actually to knit the sleeves next while I don't have another big ball of yarn attached to it, since the sleeves need to be knit in the round. So my plan this week is to concentrate on the sleeves, and I hope kind of finish them by next weekend, or at least finish one and have a good start on the second. So I hope I will have more to show you, but I am very pleased with my progress. And I already have my next ball wound and ready to go. It's interesting. It does not show up very well in the skein or in the cake, but when I actually show you the knitted sweater, it shows up beautifully. So that is my sweater for Nanny Swaymo this month, and I would say I might be a quarter of the way done. I might not be quite that far, but pretty close, and so I am very pleased with my progress this week. So those are the two projects that I'm working on right now. I have some ideas for some other things to add in, but I am hoping to finish both of those this month, and potentially even before we leave on the 22nd. So I've been trying to devote my time to pretty much those two projects so that I can make my way through them. So that is all for the knitting portion of the podcast, because that's enough. And I have no finished objects for this week. And I expect I might have Roxy's sweater done next week, but we'll just have to see. That might be a little bit too much for me to get done. So moving on to spinning. Last week I showed you a beautiful braid of Moon Rover Falkland in the Tom Baker colorway, and it was Moon Rover dyes most of her braids in thick chunks of color, so you get long stripes. And I had talked about how quite a few people tear those into thin strips and then spin them and Navajo ply them, and I decided against that. So what I did was I broke the braid in half lengthwise, and then I tore one section into about 5 or 6 little strips, which I spun straight through. So it was straight through color. And then the second half I also tore into strips, but I also tore those strips into pieces and picked them up randomly and put different colors next to each other. And what I was hoping was for a 2-ply barber pole, and that is exactly what I got. So this is probably between 3 and 350, maybe 375, I haven't measured it yet, yards of goodness. And it is that reddish pink and a purple and a couple colors of yellow. One is kind of a darker ochre and one is kind of a goldenrod. And then we had a couple different kinds of green. One was a little bit sagey and one was real light. And then we have all those little sections like the buttercup yellow going into things and a little bit of pink coming out of things. And this came out, I couldn't have expected that this is exactly the way it would look, but it came out like I wanted it to. Just a lovely barber pole. And I think this would be fun for socks. But the other thing that I think is this is Falkland. It's very soft. It is next to skin soft. And I think this would make an awesome stripy scarf. I think it wouldn't even need to be necessarily anything complicated. I think it would be fun to do either a garter or a stockinette scarf. And all of these different sections of the way the different colorways line up would make it subtly kind of mottled stripes. And I think that would be really, really cool. So this is actually going up in the shop. It will be up there in by the time this podcast goes live. So if you are interested in knitting yourself a Tom Baker scarf, I think this would be a really cool skein to do it with. So particularly if you didn't want to knit it with all the different colors and have all your ends to weave in, this is just one skein of lusciousness. So that is what I spun this week and what will be up soon. So that means it is time to pick my next spin. I picked a braid of Southern Cross Fiber. It is Finn, which is this is not super rough, although it is sturdier. I suspect it will make a wonderful sturdy sock yarn. This is in a club colorway called Breeze, and it is kind of burgundy cherry pinkish, or burgundy dark cherry pinkish reds, some purples and kind of lavender gray, and then some browns and kind of light tans. And I think I'm probably going to do this 2-ply barber pole as well. I haven't decided. It might make a good fractal spin, so I might try that, where I keep one side completely intact and spin it straight through, and then the second side I tear into tiny strips. But I think that's what I'm going to do with this one, unless I suppose it could be a pretty cool gradient too. I don't know. But I thought this would be fun and would make a really nice pair of socks. And I'm kind of thinking about spinning for sock weight yarn, just in general, and because it's fall and it's time for some warm stuff. So I am going to try this one next. So that is actually what I have for you today. It is a quick podcast. I have a few reminders and a little bit of business. Last week I drew the winner for the giveaway for the Lost at Sea kit and the yarn that I had spun. The winner of that is Knitting Mary B, and I have not yet heard from her. So I will renew my quest to find her. Knitting Mary B, please contact me with your information so that I can send you the prize that you have won. I will give her a little while longer to contact me, and then if I don't hear from her, I will go ahead and draw for another winner. So you can kind of keep that in mind, and I will let you know when that is gone and done. The second thing is that I started the knit-along for the holidays. I call it the Gift-A-Long. Again, the rules are knit between November 1st and December 31st. Whips are eligible as long as you do at least some good portion of the crafting during the months of November and December. Even though I call it a knit-along, it is open to multiple crafts: knit, crochet, weaving, spinning, sewing, anything you make that is for someone other than yourself. It can be a holiday gift, or it can just be a general gift. It doesn't have to specifically be for the holidays. It does have to be for someone other than yourself. There will be prizes for that, probably a couple Ravelry patterns and a skein of my hand spun yarn. So that will be coming up. I will draw for those probably the 1st or 2nd of January. And please come over and join. It's and I also should say that you can double, triple, quadruple dip. I don't care what you're making for other knit-alongs. If it is not for yourself, you can enter it here. So I think that's about it for today. I hope you have had a wonderful week and you are set up for a great week ahead. As always, if you need to contact me, you can leave a comment on this episode, either here on YouTube or in the Ravelry group, or you can contact me by PM on Ravelry or by email at thestashbuckler@gmail.com. Also, if you have any questions, there is a thread in my group called AMA, Ask Me Anything, so you can post a question there and I will answer it on the show. Until I see you again, I hope you have a wonderful time. Happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.